And you're live, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Council on Tuesday, the 8th of October 2024. My name is Councillor Kevin Lagan. I'm the Chairman of the Council. Members and officers, we are streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you are giving your consent to being recorded. During each item, please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak. I will then invite you at the appropriate time. Please note that the YouTube live screen sound recording is dependent on the correct use of microphones. Therefore, can I ask when you're invited to speak, you remember to turn on your microphone and turn it off when finished. Please reference a page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda paper and keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. We don't have any fire alarm testings planned tonight, members, but if an alarm does come off, we can alight from either of the doors and we'll muster on the green grass at the front of the building. Thank you. So, Tara, may we have apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies been received from Councillors Bell, Burwood and White. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Jennings?
Apologies from Councillor Miller.
Councillor Miller there, Tara.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Morgan?
And apologies from Councillor Whiffin.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Whiffin, apologies too, Tara. Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Members, we move to agenda item 3. It is recommended that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 12th of September 2024, which is found on pages 5 to 14 of your agenda packet, are approved as a true and accurate record. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pratt. Any members, any comments? I take silence as affirmation, so can we agree that by assent, members?
Agreed.
Thank you very much indeed. Item 4, which is declarations of interest. This is to disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests relating to the items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. And members, we're reminded that we should also disclose any such interest as soon as we become aware, should the need arise as we proceed throughout the meeting. Public questions. I've been advised by the clerk that we have not received any public questions. So we move to agenda item 6, which is Chairperson's announcements. I have several this evening, members. The first one is the usual one. We're going to suspend rule to stand, which is section 483. The second one is actually quite a sad announcement. Ex-councillor Neil Pudley, who some members knew and served with, unfortunately passed away on Sunday the 6th of October. Neil stood from 2007 to 2019 for Burnham North Ward, and he was widely respected and liked across the council. At this very, very sad time, we'd like to send our sincere condolences to his family and friends. And I'd ask all members in the chamber, if you can, to stand just for a brief moment to pay your respects to Councillor Pudley. Thank you, members. Very sad news indeed. There's 2 other items of business. I'm going to vary the agenda. I'm going to use part 4, rule 1 for part 8, and I'm going to move item 14 to after 11, just to give you a little bit of prior notice. And also, we've had an approach from the chairman of the Essex Historical Military Association regarding of their storage of the historic fleet. Leader, the letter came to several of us, but would you like to give a bit of context so that maybe members have some context?
Mr Holmes is going to give it.
Mr Holmes is going to do that. Thank you, Mr Holmes.
Thank you, Chairman, members. So the leader has been approached by the chairman of the Essex Military Vehicles Association, as we've heard, and that is a Chelmsford-based registered charity now in its 10th anniversary year. The charity is dedicated to the preservation and restoration of Essex military heritage. The association continues to support many Essex-based charity and fundraising events, including a showcase event, Echoes of History, and the Essex Armed Forces Days. The association, in fact, run the Maldon event for the District Council each year. For that reason, I speak to you tonight. The situation is the group has lost its historic vehicle storage and maintenance facility at Woodham Ferrers, which puts both the historic vehicles and charitable aims of the association at risk. The council has been asked if we may be able to help with the search for a new storage facility. The association is looking for a base, be it a building or an unused piece of land where a storage and maintenance of vintage military vehicles can happen. The association would be happy to have them on display if necessary, as setting up a museum is one of the charity's aims. Whilst the council has no suitable land or buildings in its ownership, given the past close working relationship with the group, members could ask you to reflect upon your own local areas and any parish council, business or farm which may be able to assist this charity to help it preserve part of our history. If you have any contact suggestions, I will be happy to share the contact information provided to the council. Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Holmes, thank you very much. A very, very, very important charity if we can help in any way, shape or form. We move on to item 7, which is the minute book, and this is to consider any recommendations brought from committees as detailed on the agenda. And we have 7A, which is Strategy and Resources Committee from the 26th of September, and that's found on pages 15 to 40. And I ask Councillor Durham to present these. Councillor Durham, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I present the recommendations coming forward from that Strategy and Resources Committee held on the 26th of September 2024 for consideration by this council. 7A relates to a motion from Councillor, bless you, Swindle. There are two recommendations. Little one, that the council confirms that the principle of tenants paying for their utility costs in full remains within the asset management strategy, and little two, that the council offers a 12-month transitional arrangement for any non-rent paying tenants of Brickhouse Farm affected by the new asset management strategy, with full payment of utility costs commencing in April 2025. I say propose. Can I have a seconder for that?
That's seconded by Councillor Thompson.
Can we agree that by assent, or do we need a vote?
Members agree by assent.
Thank
Any
you
dissent?
very much indeed.
No, all assent. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Councillor Durham.
Then we have the domestic abuse policy, which was also heard by that Strategy and Resources panel. Recommendation little one, that residents' domestic abuse policy, which is in Appendix 1, be adopted, promoted, and its processes incorporated into business as usual activities. And little two, that a recognise, respond and refer model, which is in Appendix 2, be adopted across all services, giving a whole council approach to how the council responds to those reporting domestic abuse wherever that occurs. I so move. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Thompson, please. Thank you.
Again, can we agree that by assent?
Members agree by assent. Tara, thank you.
Indeed. And finally, we have the discretionary fees and charges policy for 25-26. Recommendations are little one, that the 2025-26 discretionary fees and charges policies at Appendix 3 be approved, and little two, that the revised 2024-2025 fees and charges schedule for building control shown at Appendix 4 be approved. I say move. Can I have a seconder?
Councillor Thompson, thank you.
And again, can we agree that by assent?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. That concludes that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Durham. We move to agenda item 8, which is minutes of the meetings of the council, and this is to note that since the last in council, up until Monday the 30th of September 2024, as advised in council agenda dispatch, the following committees have met and to receive any questions in accordance with council and committee procedure rule 6 little 2, and they were the North Western Area Planning Committee on the 11th of September, Performance Governance and Audit Committee on the 19th of September, Overview and Scrutiny Committee on the 24th of September, and Strategy and Resources Committee on the 26th of September. I propose these are noted. Do I have a seconder?
Noted, yeah.
Noted. Thank you. Number 9 is questions in accordance with Procedure Rule 6.3, of which notice has been given. We have no notice for questions. So we move on to agenda item 10, which is a boundary commission review of electoral wards, which is found on pages 41 to 42 of your agenda pack. Ms Hughes, the Assistant Director of Programmes, Performance and Governance, is with us remotely tonight. I hand over to you, Ms Hughes, to present the report.
Thank you. So the Boundary Commission are completing its first review of polling wards and member profile for Maldon District since 2020. The paper highlights that by April, the Council is required to submit estimating polling district figures and member numbers required for effective governance, which will inform the proposals that the Boundary Commission put out for public consultation. The paper requests a working group to be established and also delegation to myself to make the submission in consultation with the working group. To inform the submission, a number of areas of technical information such as planning and geospatial information will be required. So an officer group has also been established to help inform the work, and the project to put together the submission will also run through the Project Management Office for monthly management oversight. An all-member briefing has been sent for Tuesday the 12th of November at 6 p.m, where Boundary Commission colleagues will give a presentation and be available to answer member queries on the review. Although not covered in this paper, the Boundary Commission have a full timeline of work until winter 2026, which includes public consultation. The changes will be due to be implemented in the May 2027 election. Given the technical work involved and the need we have for the detailed working group review, the delegation is sought in this paper to be able to meet the deadline of submission that we've been given for 6 months' time.
Thank you very much indeed, Ms Hughes. Members, we have two recommendations. We have recommendations little one that are... Leader.
Could I amend recommendation 1?
Once I've read it out, you can amend it. Thank you. I'm going to read them twice. Right. I was going to take them two, but I'll do recommendation number 1, that a boundary review group work is established and 6 members of the council are appointed to this. Leader.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'd like to amend recommendation 1 that it is 9 members of the council and it has political balance. So therefore, each of the main groups will have 2 representatives and 1 non-aligned.
Is that seconded?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so thank you very much. And Tara, is that clear on that recommendation?
Yes, Chairman, that's fine, but members will need to just vote on that amendment.
They certainly will, but I was just making sure it
Thank
worked.
you.
So members,
Yeah,
we need,
got that,
I think I'm going to take them separately because we've now got the recommendation. So for little 1, members 4?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you very much. Anybody against? No, thank you very much. That's unanimous. And little 2, that submission of Maldon polling growth estimates and the suggested profile are delegated, as just said, to the Assistant Director of Programmes, Performance and Governance in consultation with the Member Boundary Review Working Group. To have a seconder for that recommendation. Councillor Jennings, agreed, members? Agreed. Thank you very much indeed.
Chairman, sorry, are you going to appoint those members now to the working group?
We were just doing that. You're so efficient, Miss Bernard, so efficient. So, could we have some nominations from the political groups, please? Councillor Morgan.
On behalf of the Conservative Group, I nominate myself and Councillor Tots.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Stilts.
Thank you. From the DSG Group, I nominate myself and Councillor Stamp.
Thank you. Liberal Democrats. Councillor Driver.
From the Liberal Democrat Group, I nominate myself and Councillor Paula Spenceley.
Thank you very much indeed. Leader.
And from the Maldon District Independent Group, I nominate myself and Councillor Bassinger. And I would like to, from the non-aligned, nominate Councillor Lay.
I'd like to second Councillor Lay. Councillor Lay, will you accept that nomination?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I accept. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much indeed. So they're the nominations. Is that okay, Tara? You captured all of those?
Yes, Chairman. Just
Right.
council need to agree those, if that's okay, please.
Agreed, members?
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. So we move to item 11, which is the appointment of a returning officer, an electoral registration officer, which is found on agenda pages 43 to 44. I believe the leader is going to start present this paper. With support from Ms Holmes if needed.
Thank you, Chair. As we know, next week, Mr Wilkinson will be joining the council as the Chief Executive. As part of his job description, he is stipulated as a returning officer, so therefore we have to make a change in terms of the returning officer at the council, and obviously he will have the form of delegation in terms of his position once he joins the organisation next Monday.
Thank you very much indeed, Leader. Therefore, we have one recommendation that the Council appoints Mr Doug Wilkinson, Chief Executive, as both Returning Officer and Electoral Registration Officer with effect from the 14th of October 2024. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Fluker.
Thank you, Chairman. I just really, Chairman, I can understand the mechanics of this, of course, but I just wanted to go to paragraph 6 and in particular.
Could I, just before you go, because it's probably my error, but I thought you was seconded in the motion.
No, I signalled and I wish to speak. So
I'll just get the motion second and then, as per normal, Councillor Stamp, second the motion. Thank you.
Which has given me the opportunity to get my teeth back in. So, Chairman, under paragraph 6, impact on resources financial. Of course, members may not be aware, but there is an additional salary paid for this position, Chairman. So I really do think that figure should be. Now I can't remember if it's £4,000 or £7,000. I've had these conversations before with officers, and I can remember in the past that one chief executive actually donated her fee to, I believe, a charity, because they were being paid twice in all circumstances. But I think, Chairman, the point I make is there is an impact on resources, and I think members should be made aware that this is a paid role which attracts quite a significant amount of money. The other thing, Chairman, is, and I appreciate that the position can be delegated by the Chief Executive once they've been appointed, but Chairman, I would suspect that by the time we get to May next year, the Chief Executive will have enough to worry about without running an election. But I'll look forward to hearing his response to that, because I'm sure he's listening.
Yeah, thank you very much. I believe that we've been informed that the costs have been budgeted for. We don't know his thinking at this moment in time because he's not onboarded. So let's just wait and see.
If you
what
allow
he
me,
says.
Chairman.
No, we'll just move on, thank you, because we have the leader. Thank you.
I have obviously had lots of conversations with Mr Wilkinson about his roles, and I know for a fact that he was very keen to become the returning officer. There is no financial cost because we already have a director who is in that position, so it's just a transfer of role. There are no additional costs.
Thank you, leader. Thank you for confirming that. Members, any further questions on this appointment? Okay, we've had it. The motion has been moved and it's been seconded. Do we agree this by assent? Agreed, members. Any dissent? Members, thank you very much indeed. Now we're going to move the agenda, so we're going to move agenda item 14 up the agenda, and this is a schedule of 2024-25 meetings. And this is to consider following an amendment to the 2024-2025 schedule of meetings. Excuse me while I just turn my page. The Performance, Governance and Audit Committee. This is to move the meeting scheduled for Thursday the 7th of November 2024 to Thursday the 5th of December 2024. This request is to allow the committee to consider and sign the 2021 and 2022 and 2022 and 2023 accounts. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stamp. Members, any comments, or do we agree this by assent? Good. Councillor Durham?
Well, Chairman, I will not be available on the 5th of November, but whatever.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fluker?
Chairman, there's been a discussion this week about the corporate diary, and we always used to have a corporate diary, and the corporate diary always used to have things in anniversaries of various events that we need to respond to. So, Chairman, from what I understand, the corporate diary seems to have disappeared, and had it not have done, we would have known about the police fire crime commissioners meeting last night. Which clashed with the planning policy briefing to all members. Clearly, based on what's just been said, these dates have been known for some time. So when the committee diary was formulated in advance of the statutory annual meeting, this should have been known. So, Chairman, I hope you'll join me in supporting my ask that we reinvigorate the corporate diary. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fluker. Councillor Stamp?
Yeah, with all due respect, Councillor Fluker, it wasn't well known. It's only been done because of the backstop dates regarding audit and the external auditors, and for the information to be provided. So it actually wasn't known in a great deal of advance, and it was notified to myself and the deputy of PG&A. So just for clarity, that is the case. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Well, I'm not arguing about the corporate diary. I'm just saying that it was later date. Thank you.
No, appreciate that, Councillor Stamp. Thank you, Councillor Fluker. Mr Holmes, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, CLT will consider the reinstatement of that corporate diary. It is probably a resourcing issue, and I think in the changes of staff that has fallen by the wayside. But the original intent was it picked up, obviously, the council's agenda. It picked up parish council meetings, working groups, and it was all in one place for access. So I think it's a useful thing to have if we can reinstate that. So we'll look at that.
No, thank you very much indeed, Mr Holmes. So, members, could we agree that? We did agree that, didn't we? Thank you very much indeed. Then we move back to agenda item 12, which is approval of absence of the councillor. This is found on pages 45 to 46, and Ms Holmes is going to present a synopsis for us, please. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Before you tonight is a decision whether to approve the absence of Councillor White, who has not been at a council meeting since May this year. Under the Local Government Act, a councillor is required to attend one meeting every 6 months, and if they fail to do so, can no longer sit as a councillor. Although we're a long way from November, we need to make that decision at a council meeting before the 6-month period ends, and this is that meeting. Councillor White has not been available and is not available on the grounds of ill health. That is all I'm permitted to say in terms of the reasons. It's also not clear whether she will be fully fit and able to return in November, so we've therefore asked for an extension to that approved absence up to the council meeting in February. If Councillor White decides to attend any meeting of the council, that will obviously slide and the 6 months time frame starts again. But that's the decision for you tonight.
Thank you very much indeed, Ms Holmes. So, members, I will put the recommendations with little one that the council consider whether to approve Councillor Susan White's permitted periods of absence beyond the 6-month period of non-attendance provided for within section 85(1) of the Local Government Act 1972 on the grounds of ill health. And 2, that the council considers whether to agree a further extension to the permitted absence beyond the 6-month period until the 13th of February 2025. I do move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stamp, thank you. Members, any comments?
Agree with the recommendation.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Stevens, thank you.
Thank you. Could I just ask for clarity, please? The fact that we're being advised that the councillor is away through ill health, does that imply, or please can someone confirm, that the councillor has asked for this extension and actually she's not said, well, I want to stand down at this point? Because I don't really understand where she is in this. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, I've been in contact with her and her family. I'm not sure there's a definite decision, but at the moment her plan is, and she would like to return. That obviously could change in the coming months, but that is the position today.
Yeah, very much so. Very well respected, very elected by 588 votes in the last election. So, like anybody, as I look into everybody's eyes, if something of an illness fall upon us, I'd like to think that we'd all support each other. So, members, do we agree the extension? Thank you very much indeed, members. Very kind. Tara, just for the note, Councillor Bown and Councillor Stamp are leaving the meeting at 19:52.
Thank you, Chairman.
Not the year, the time.
Yeah.
I'll just wait till they go before just for the noise for the microphone. Thank you, councillors. Drive carefully. We move to agenda item 13, which is consideration of request from the Mid and South Essex Integrated Care Board. This is found on your agenda papers at 47 to 52, and I'll call upon the leader to present the report and move the recommendations, please.
Thank you, Chair. So, as it says, on the 18th of September 2024, the Chief Exec of the NHS Mid South Essex ICB wrote to myself as leader to notify the council that they've decided to delay the final decision on the reconfiguration of the community hospitals and the birthing units and the ambulatory services for 6 months, and the letter is attached. What they are proposing to do is to form a working group which will focus on further engagement and co-development with an emphasis, and as it stipulates what those things are. So, from my understanding, that as well as us being approached, the Save Maldon Medical Services also have been approached to be part of this working group. So therefore, I think it's very important that as a council, we are at that working group as well. I hasten to add, I will not talk to them about the use of council assets. And that also applies to the summits that are coming up in the next couple of months. Myself and CLT have agreed that if at any of those summits assets get talked about, we will leave the room at that particular point, and we join the meeting after any talk in terms of one public estate within the Maldon district. So we abide by what the council has decided. So therefore, I hope that members see the importance of us being at that working group and being part of those discussions.
Thank you very much indeed. So members, we have two recommendations. We have one that members consider the requests made by Mid and South Essex ICB to engage in a working group, as set out in paragraph 3.1 of the report. And little 2, that subject to the approval of recommendation 1 above, the council appoints the leader of the council to represent Maldon District Council on the working group, along with a named substitute in case it's required. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Durham. Okay, Councillor Pratt, second. Members, Councillor Durham.
Well, thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I recall at possibly the last full council meeting that we resolved not to engage. So we can't take part. That was a resolve of council not to engage with either the summit or the NHS. So, you know, the 6-month rule, I didn't agree with it, and I agree that we should be at the table, but this council agreed not to engage with the NHS.
I think it's a slightly different case, Councillor Durham, because yes, indeed we did engage with the NHS on the use of our assets and our estate, which was the theme of it, and the leader's come through quite clearly in his statement that this is not the issue. This is just a request by the ICB to actually have Maldon District Council round the table with other stakeholders.
No, with the greatest respect, Chairman, the resolve was not to engage with the NHS. I'm sorry, and as Councillor Fluker is, yeah, that was the resolve of this council. Thank you.
Councillor Spenceley.
Thank you, Chair. I think that would be taking the motion out of the context of the report, which was specifically about the assets. And, you know, I completely take on board Councillor Durham's point. I must say, having attended HOSCA Health Overview and Scrutiny at Essex only last week, I'm a little bit tired of the ICB looking like that we're throwing our toys out of the pram is what's gone round because we didn't want to, negotiate over our assets seems to be a general theme. I think it's really important that we engage in this working group because I don't know if any members know, but I would refer them to, they could look online, it's in the public domain. There's a new facility being built for Sybil Headingham, which is quite interesting, which has 9,500 residents and it's built to cater for an increase up to 12,500. And I was told at the meeting last week that it involved a perfect storm and how Braintree District Council had been involved and that's why it had all happened. I think they meant stars aligned, not perfect storm, but anyway. But the point of the matter is, I found that actually quite insulting because there was a little bit of a hint there about us not cooperating. And I've looked back at the records. And actually, and I'm sure Councillor Durham would agree with me, we did cooperate very much with the NHS over a number of decades. So I think we've got every opportunity now to try to lobby for a fairer deal for our district. And I think it would be rather churlish to turn it down on some very spurious suggestion that we said we couldn't do that. We didn't. We said we couldn't negotiate the use of our assets. Thank you.
I think, Councillor, before I move on, I think one of the things is clear, and I get Councillor Durham's point, but an officer can bring a paper, which this is an authored paper from an officer, at any time. We as members have to wait for the 6-month rule unless 16 members of the council so deem it. So this paper can stand in its own right.
Chairman, I accept that, but I've just been reading the minutes. It's pretty clear what we agreed last time.
But we have a fresh paper. Yeah, it's on that cusp. Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with the working group. I agree with all of this recommendation in principle, but I don't see why, considering the importance of all this to Maldon District, I don't see why we should only have one representative, and I think we should have more than one representative on that working group. And I would suggest also the leaders of the other groups. That's making 4, which doesn't seem an unreasonable number considering how many other people turn up to these things. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Thompson. We'll come back to that in a while. Thank you. Councillor Fittock.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I take the point that Councillor Durham's raised, but at the last meeting, we just resolved not to support the recommendation. If we go back a step to a previous position that we reached, we did resolve to liaise with the NHS and the officer would bring back a report in due course. So I think it's sort of, I understand the point, but I think that we'd previously resolved to support and just didn't agree to support on the terms of the officer's recommendation.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Fittick. Leader, thank you.
Yeah, just on the point of the working group, this is not a Maldon District Council working group. It is an ICB working group that we have been invited to attend. So I think having 4 leaders from the council here would be, with a little bit. I'm quite happy for someone else to join me at that working group, and I think that's a good suggestion. But we have to recognise that we have been invited to join this working group. We aren't forming this working group.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Morgan. Certainly, Councillor Thompson, thank you. Thank you.
Come back, Chairman, thank you. But the report doesn't specify a number. We're suggesting a number of 1, and I'm happy to compromise on that number. But I think we would be unrepresentative if we do have the leader solely there.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Leader, would you like to respond?
In the letter, the ICB has asked for 1 representative from Maldon District Council. So we will have to go back to them, even if we're asking for 2 representatives, because we've been asked for 1 representative in terms of the letter. But hopefully they will be flexible.
Councillor Morgan.
Well, can we go back to them and ask them for 4 representatives?
Sorry?
Can we go back to them and ask them for 4 representatives?
I just think that's an overkill, Councillor Morgan. I really, this is an ICB working group. We cannot have, which I think is probably going to have only 6 or 7 representatives on it. We're going to take up half the representatives. It's not acceptable. We have to be reasonable and work with the ICB and work together. And whoever's representative will report back to council about the things that happen at the working group. We do not need 4 representatives on this working group.
Yeah, the letter is quite. I can see both points. That this is the key thing. But to have the leader there to represent us as a district council, just in the working group, to be able to come back. And there's no reason why we can't say I would have thought, and I'm just busking off the top of my head here, that the representatives who, if you can't make it, would form one of the leaders of the opposition, as reserves. So
it says in the recommendations for substitute.
Yeah, exactly that. Councillor Morgan.
Could perhaps the leader just explain out the last point there was make outline recommendations on the deliverable model for the provision of healthcare estate in the Maldon district. Who's those recommendations going to be put to?
I assume that once the ICB have gone away and having these discussions, once they've had those discussions, I assume that they will come back to that working group, and then at some point it will go out to public consultation again. I think that's the process that we're now following. The consultation at the moment that happened this summer has been put on the shelf, and they've understood that there is a need to engage with the district before any solutions are put forward. And from my understanding, that the ICB are very keen to produce something for the district, and get something, a solution for us that works, from my understanding.
That seems to be the tone of the letter as well, that was authored by Tom Abel. So. Yeah. And it's a step forward in, again, I shouldn't really give an opinion as chair, but it is a big thing that they've deferred for 6 months, so we can start to have some decent dialogue and some decent consultation, because this is such an important aspect for us to stand for. Councillor Jennings, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just reading through the letter, there doesn't appear to be any stipulation of a number of people to be invited. There's no mention of 1, 2, 3, 10 at all.
Let's read the letter. Sorry, Councillor Drive, just before it comes out, it says, Dear Councillor Siddle, I hope this letter finds you well. Further to our recent conversations, I'm writing on behalf of the NHS Mid and South Essex Integrated Care Board, the ICB, to confirm that we have decided to delay the final decision on the reconfiguration of the community hospital beds, midwife-led birthing unit and ambulatory care services for 6 months. Positive. Since I've come into the post last month, I've been reviewing some of the decisions in the train. While much of the work has been done, including significant input from our local communities, it is clear to me that more time is needed to explore further the suggestions made to develop more comprehensive solutions together. To that end, we are proposing to form a working group that will focus on further engagement and co-develop with an emphasis on 1. Reviewing the facts and feedback on options and maternity and community beds to help further inform the decisions on these services. 2. Exploring the options of the pathways for care of patients across Mid and South Essex for stroke and immediate care, and how strengthening community-based care may inform the decisions of these services. 3. Make outline recommendations on deliverable model of the Precision for Healthcare estate in the Maldon district specifically. Your insight and expertise will be valued to this process, and I'd like to therefore invite from your organisation part of your working group. I think they missed a word there. Yes, we'll poetically like. The group will include representatives from the NHS, local authorities, community groups and other key stakeholders, and will be led by an independent chair to ensure balance and thorough consideration of all perspectives. We plan to convene, members, just a sec, we plan to convene the first meeting within the next few weeks, which will initially focus on developing the detailed terms of reference for this work. If your organisation can participate, please confirm your interest by Friday the 27th of September to me, underlined. In the meantime, I can confirm there will be no immediate changes to any provision and services and continue as they are during this extended period. Again, I appreciate your ongoing support during this work and look forward to working with you over the coming months. Your contribution will help shape the future of healthcare services in our community, ensure they're both sustainable and aligned with the needs of the diverse population. And this is out in the public domain, so that's the content of the letter. So, Councillor Siddle Norman. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Driver.
Sorry, if there's any chance of me being on this committee, I would love to. I'm your Labour member, and I would like to think that I had some influence. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Driver, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. 2 points. Firstly, I think the resolution of the last committee meeting expressed a concern across the chamber about the possibility of us supporting the NHS in moving out of St Peter's, and that actually we need to be very careful about how we position ourselves, recognising that actually we all want to see there are services being maintained within the area. Now, I'm not close to what a future direction might be, but I think we need to be cautious about how we do that. So I would agree that we need to move down this road. I think they've come back and taken a decision that they need to rethink, which I think is positive. So given that they've made this decision to rethink, I think we need to engage. But I think we need to be clear on the grounds on which we're engaging. And I hope that actually as part of the process for setting up this group, there will be some criteria on which this group will operate, and that actually we are kept in the loop in terms of what that criteria happens to be, because I think that will be helpful for us. One last point in relation to the letter, which is a point of clarification really, it seems to suggest that no services will change while this final 6 months of consultation is. So does this mean that the maternity will return to St Peter's? Well, indeed, the shakes of the head. So actually they've already appeared to have made a change, and that actually that, at the moment anyway, is staying as it is, if I understand the situation correctly.
Thank you, Councillor. Members, I do take your point, Councillor Driver, but this agenda item is purely and simply just to look at do we engage and what members do we put onto that working group, because at the moment we don't know. Councillor Fluker was next, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'm glad you read the letter out, because I'd already highlighted that paragraph that made absolutely no sense. So I hope that Mr. Abel makes more sense of this predicament that he's dealing with, rather than the way in which he wrote this letter. But I mean, it's an interesting letter. I mean, it is specifically to the leader, and it mentions in that rather difficultly written paragraph, your insights and expertise will be invaluable. I mean, listening to some of the comments that members have made, and particularly Councillor Spenceley, I mean, she seems to have an enormous amount of experience around these matters, and I do wonder whether or not by default we should send the leader, but actually send the person who we think is most qualified to represent the council. And Chairman, just going back to governance, just going back to governance, I find it extraordinary that the matter of this previous resolution of the council on the 6-month rule was not discussed at the agenda meeting, and I think if it had been, and bearing in mind we've been in this position before quite recently, then the officers would have brought forward their report with a paragraph explaining what the situation is and why we can revisit that, and I think if we had done, it would have stopped an awful amount of debate. So I rather hope that we'll do this in the future. But I agree that there should be more than one person, but I do think, you know, we should pay particular attention to what Mr. Abel says when he says your insights and expertise. So I really do think we should have properly qualified people representing the council at these working group meetings.
Thank you. And the constitutional was mentioned at the agenda meeting, so that's why I mentioned it this evening that we can do that via officers. So I beg to differ. Councillor Durham, you've spoken once, I'll come back to you, sir. Councillor Spenceley, please. Councillor Paula Spenceley.
Thank you. So I'm going to stand up because I'm going to, first of all, thank Councillor Fluker for that lovely commendation, which I actually do take to heart. But I'm going to say right away, don't send me because they absolutely hate me. And I would be absolutely the wrong person to send, because I have discovered lately they can't even look at me when they're talking to me. So I think, quite honestly, if everybody does respect my view a little bit, because I like to think I have been maybe the most involved councillor in this from the beginning, I would like to say that I would put my trust in the leader going, I do think that we do need to ask the ICB for clarification on how many, and I would suggest that if it's more, that we send the group leaders if that's what's required, because I wouldn't like to see Essex turning up with, you know, a whole truckload of people and us only having one. So we do have to make sure that that doesn't happen, because even for our leaders' sake. So I would say let's support this motion, but also, you know, if there are more required, then please to take the group leaders with you. And also I would, obviously, you've said it already, Councillor Siddle, I was going to call you Richard. But I think you do need to, if you can report back to us regularly, and I would particularly sometimes like you to make sure that I do know what's going on, because as you know, I am involved with the campaigners as well as HOSC, so it would be useful. And I think it's really important, and please do bring up the Sybil Headingham model when you go, because I can't understand how a population of 9,500 people are going to have a new centre which will involve not birthing, but I'm told midwifery services, blood testing and possibly minor injuries. And I don't understand how that population has that and we're being left with nothing. And it was the whole reason why we didn't want a stopgap measure. We deserve better for the people of this district, and I hope you'll fight for it. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Spenceley. Councillor Durham?
Yeah, thank you. It's quite clear from the letter. It doesn't say just one, and I think, you know, it includes members from the NHS. They'll turn up mob-handed. Local authorities, I'm assuming that the county council have been invited. I don't know who will go from there. I slightly disagree with having the group leaders. I think what would be better would be representatives from the different areas, because quite clearly there is a very different issue with the Dengie, for example, than there is with the North. So I think a representative covering each area would be able to contribute more. And I can see absolutely no reason why we shouldn't accept and say, well, we want 3 or 4. Nothing in that letter that says it whatsoever. But I do think that we need all areas covered.
Yeah. Well, maybe as a suggestion on little 2, it goes as it stands, but it talks about the leader of the council initially to represent Maldon District Council on the working group, which I think is critical, along with named substitute in cases required, and further further members to attend as determined after the initial meeting. Because I don't think you know what it is. We don't know what the constitution of this working group is. So let's get round the table first. Let's get some presence, and then come back and say, what do we need to do exactly what Councillor Spencer has said so beautifully to represent the people in the district. So, well, we don't have to accept them.
We do.
We don't.
They can set their own terms of reference at the first meeting. So whatever we want is irrelevant.
Can I suggest then, so that when I respond to that letter, once we've approved the recommendation, as part of that response, we ask for how many representatives they would accept from Maldon District Council. And then I will go back to group leaders and ask, hopefully they will accept more than me, and ask for representatives to come forward, to be agreed by group leaders, if that's acceptable.
Yep, works for me. Members, are you happy with that?
Yes.
Okay, agree that. Tara, did you catch that? So that's all agreed then. So we need to vote on the recommendations as well. So obviously we've been through them. We've had it seconded. We agree those by assent with the amendment that's been put on. Thank you. So 13, 14.
Chairman, sorry to interrupt there. It does talk about a named substitute. So in recommendation 2.
Councillor Bassinger.
We'll take that out.
Yeah, so we'll amend that if we can, Tara. We'll just take the working group, and then we'll take along with the name substitute in case is required out at this moment in time.
Okay,
Is that acceptable, members? Yep. Thank you very much indeed. We now move on to agenda item 15, which is questions to the leader of the council in accordance with procedural 13M. This is time limited to 15 minutes, members. So could I ask people to raise their hands if they do have any questions for the leader, so I know what we've got? Councillor Morgan and Councillor Fluker. May I ask, Councillor Whiffen, so they do that. How many, do you mind me asking, how many questions do each member have? One each.
Well, one of it.
Yeah, we'll just say one and a small extension. Okay, so
I'll take the bit first.
So again, we'll start with the first one. So it's probably easier to go alphabetically. So Councillor Fluker, if you'd like to start and raise your questions.
Thank you, Chairman.
Please.
Chairman, the expiry date, the expiry date of the current leisure contract has been known since the 1st of October 2019. That said, the council has had an enormous amount of time to negotiate a new, robust, financially sound and viable contract. A report scheduled to go to council on the 12th of September, confirming the terms of the new contract, was withdrawn on the day to what has been described as inaccuracies. No explanation has been given by officers as to why these weren't picked up earlier. Briefings planned to take place in advance of tonight's meeting were cancelled. Tonight's extraordinary meeting was called to discuss the leisure contract, but even though the council has had 5 years to deal with the contract, there is still no report before members. Leader, given the absence of a report to members, and we've now been forced to extend the current contract to the 31st of January, if you and the deputy leader are not the lightning rods of this chaos, who is?
Thank you. Thank you. Let the leader respond, please, Councillor Fluker. Thank you.
So one of the things that this council no longer has is a group with a large majority. So one of the things that we have to do when we're making decisions like this is to ensure, and I think it should have happened in the past actually, because it didn't really happen in the past when there was a large group here, was to ensure that all members were behind the report that's going to full council. We have to ensure this is a 20-year contract. So when we're signing a 20-year contract, we have to ensure that we're getting this right and that members feel comfortable with making the decision. And we're going to ensure that members are involved in that decision and that we're not just whipped to get it through, which is what used to happen. So the other thing that we are doing in terms of this, and part of the reason why we delayed it, was to ensure that the chief executive, who is joining next Monday, is also comfortable and behind this particular report. So I'd rather get this right rather than rush it, because it's going to last 20 years.
Thank you very much indeed, Leader. Councillor Labour, would you like to raise your question to the Leader? Thank you.
Can I ask the Leader to note the following? The Labour government's recent decision to restrict the winter fuel payment to only pensioners in receipt of means-tested benefits like pension credit, as announced by Chancellor Rachel Reeves. The estimated impact of this decision, which Age UK says will mean 2 million pensioners who badly need the money to stay warm this winter, will not receive it. The significant role that winter fuel payments play in helping older residents in Maldon District and across the UK afford heating during the coldest months, thereby preventing heat or eat dilemmas and safeguarding health. Following that, I wish to put to him the following questions. Does he not agree that the winter fuel payment has been a lifeline for many older people across the UK, and that restricting its availability solely to those on pension credit risks leaving many pensioners in financial hardship? The decision to means test winter fuel payments, especially with such short notice and without adequate compensatory measures, is deeply unfair and will disproportionately affect the health and well-being of our poorest older residents. And I further ask if you, as Leader, would consider writing to the Chancellor of the Exchequer urging a review of the decision to means test the winter fuel payment and asking the Government to ensure that vulnerable pensioners, particularly those who do not claim pension credit, are protected from fuel poverty, and also encourage local efforts to promote pension credit uptake through council services and partnerships with local charities and community organisations to ensure that all eligible pensioners in Maldon District Council are supported in claiming their entitlements.
Thank you for your question. I wholeheartedly agree with you, and it is shocking that the Labour government have taken this approach. And especially as I heard today that the amount of money it's actually saving is £1.3 billion, which is just such a small amount of money in the big scheme of things. I would love to think that a letter from the council would have an influence, and if that's what members would like us to do, I'm quite happy to support that. Unfortunately, Labour aren't listening to one of their major paymasters, which is Unite, and Unite are against this decision. And I know that our Revs and Benefits team do an awful lot of support in terms of those that are in need, and hopefully they'll be able to support that. But I agree that this decision by this government is not acceptable and shouldn't have happened.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Morgan, please.
Are we responding on that point, or
It's only to the questions to the Leader, aren't they? If you have a question to the Leader, then...
Yes, thank you, Ali. At the last meeting of the Strategy and Resources Committee, I note that you voted for the proposal to commit the Council to pay for regular dredging to remove silt from Blackwater in order to facilitate the use of the Hythe Quay by the Thames barges and visiting Oxford. Whilst I recognise that all residents of the district benefit from the tourist income that the barges generate, nevertheless, the residents of my ward, as I venture to suggest the residents of yours, tend to wear green wellies rather than yellow ones. So I think that it is unfair that we are asked to directly subsidise a specifically nautical service. Therefore, can I suggest that the barge owners and visiting yachtsmen using the town quay pay a dredging surcharge? This would not be to meet the full cost of the service, but would be seen as a contribution towards it. I understand a working group is to be established to investigate the whole question of dredging, and I ask this proposal be brought before it.
I couldn't wholeheartedly disagree more in terms of this, and the fact that this council has neglected this work for years and years and years. And if we carry on neglecting to do this work, it will only get worse. So we need to do this. We've only got to look behind me at what's up there. There's a barge. Yeah, we've got it all on our letterheads. There's a barge. And the fact that we could have the situation where one of the main heritage and one of the main things about Maldon could disappear as a result of us not doing this work, this shocks me. So this is long overdue. We need to do this work. We need to commit to this work. It's a Maldon District Council asset, the Hythe. So we have to ensure that we're making sure that Hythe is fit for purpose. And we need to do this now rather than waiting again. And that's what's happened. I remember when I first got elected in 2019, this came up and it got postponed. I can't have that as leader. I can't have us not take our responsibilities properly. And therefore, I disagree completely with Councillor Morgan, and this needs to take place, and the working group needs to ensure that this work takes place and that we maintain that for future, and we keep it maintained for the future, so that barges and visiting yachtsmen can visit our wonderful town.
Hear, hear. Well said, Leader. Any other members? Because we have 6 minutes left if anybody would like to raise a question to the Leader.
What's his bit?
This is my bit.
That's it. Councillor Durham, you have a question?
It is, yes.
Yeah, good.
Basically, Leader, I just would ask that you join with me, and I'm sure the other members of the council, in expressing our appreciation for the 47 years of exemplary service that Mr. Holmes has given to the council. Well, yes, and to wish him all the very best.
He's not gone yet. No. You've got 2 months or so.
Right. Councillor Durham, please. Question.
Thank you. It is a question to the leader. Leader, we know this current Labour government are actually the gift that keeps on giving with their, let's just call them ill-advised policies. I do understand actually that there is talk on the street that they are going to rewind the winter pay film. I think they're going to be forced to. But one of the current Labour government's policies is to reform local government, this Parliament. Are we making plans? And I know that we've about to agree a leisure contract for 20 years, but are we taking account of the fact that within this Parliament of 5 years, this council may not exist?
Mr. Holmes will back me up on this. I've already had conversations with CLT about that potential local government reform and the effect that it could have on local authorities. From my understanding of going to the Essex leaders meeting and encountering the 3 Labour councils in the south of Essex, they've had conversations with the ministers, and there was one particular council who wanted us to sign up to a letter that we hadn't even seen on local government reform and how it connects into devolution. You can imagine what my response to that was. It wasn't particularly constructive. I was polite. So we don't know, but there is the potential that would happen. And my understanding, the Labour government does not want devolution with 3 tiers. They want devolution with only 2 tiers. So we have to be ready for it, Councillor Durham.
They also want the entire country mayoral regions.
Yeah.
And things might have changed since you had your meeting.
Just before we move to Councillor, I just have a question, Leader. Just one to be answered in writing. Still regarding the leisure contract, could you be kind enough at some point to let us know when Council determined that a 20-year contract was going to be let rather than a 15-year contract? Because then that will be fine in writing, if that's okay, Leader.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Thompson, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the Leader agree with me that, in fact, he didn't answer Councillor Morgan's question, which was not about delaying the dredging, let alone not doing it at all, but about whether the main users should make a modest contribution to show that they are, in fact, the main users of this facility? Thank you.
I'm afraid, again, no, I don't think they should make a contribution. They pay a wharfage fee, and we also make a large amount of money from visitors using the car park on the prom, And if we didn't have the barges there, we wouldn't make the money from the car park. So I don't think the barge owners and the people who should pay any more than their current wharfage fee.
Thank you. Thank you, Leader. Members, I see no more hands up or no more requests, so thank members for their very important and in-depth questions, and thank the Leader for his answers. So we now move on, Leaders, to any other items of business that the Chairperson decides are urgent. I have none. So item 17, which is closure of the meeting. Members, thank you very much for your contributions this evening. I'll now draw the meeting to a close at 20:29 p.m. and please travel home safely. Thank you. Thank you.